Good morning. We're here this morning to talk about timekeeper tips and tricks. So you guys have been using the system for a couple of weeks now, and I know we've been out to various sites to help you guys get used to it and ask all kinds of questions, which has been great. So actually this has grown out of the questions that you have asked and also the things we've seen out in the field. So this morning we're going to talk about a few different things. The agenda looks a lot more robust than it actually is. I'm expecting we'll be out of here in about a half an hour. So the first thing we wanted to talk about was the difference between a timekeeper and an approver. Then we'll review some of the fields that are on a timesheet because you guys have a lot of data entry that you do on your timesheet. We'll talk about the importance of schedules, how to enter overtime, how to enter leave time, entering a shift differential, how to find a time reporter group if you don't know how. And then also there's a few other miscellaneous tips that I wanted to pass along that will help on the data entry side. So first, we wanted to talk about timekeeper versus approver. These are two very distinct roles within the system, although there is some overlap between the two. It is a little different. So here at the Commonwealth, we define a timekeeper as someone who logs into HRCMS using a UAID. So your UAID would start with MBT. And it is required for those folks, I think you call them payroll clerks, who enter time for employees. So, you have your payroll clerks out in the field. They're doing the data entry. They're entering time into the system. They use a UAID to enter the system. And timekeepers have access to all MBTA employees. So they can actually enter time on behalf of anyone in the MBTA. So if they need to go ahead and if somebody's out that day, they need to step in for another timekeeper, they can do that. A timekeeper can only enter time. They cannot approve time. And that's a very important distinction. So that's a timekeeper. An approver is usually a direct supervisor. And as an approver, you have the ability to view time, enter time on behalf of the employee, edit time, and approve time. So you can do a whole lot more with your approver credentials than you can with a timekeeper credentials. And we're going to talk through, so this session today is focusing on the timekeeper. So how the timekeeper goes about and some tips and tricks for them. Okay. So you guys have a very robust timesheet. There's a lot of fields on there. And I know that you've been using this for a couple of weeks now, but I just wanted to review your data entry points on the timesheet. So on this chart here, it shows the field name that we use in HRCMS. The middle column is the MBTA use, so kind of your lingo, how you guys use it, and then the access, so who has access to it. So the combination code is what you're going to see in the timesheet. That's your function code. That's the T's function code. So you would enter, all those are preloaded for you. You only have access to view the MBTA codes, so if you click on the little magnifying glass, you'll only see MBTA codes there. For user field 1, that's what it's called at HRCMS, that's your work area. And all those codes begin with the letter T for the T. You actually, in the system, can view everyone, so the entire Commonwealth. Any other agency that is using user fields, you can view those. And we had a few instances over the past couple of weeks where people were using user fields that didn't belong to the T. So the best way to remember your user fields, user field 1 always begins with T. User field 2 is your overtime reason code. And those, if you search for them, those begin with MBT. So it's a little different. And then finally, for user field 3, that's for your out of title pay, and those also begin with MBT. And I'll correct that on the slide. So that's just a quick review of the different data entry points on the timesheet. We will see these couple of different fields as we navigate through the presentation. Also wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about how important schedules are. Schedules are assigned, so every employee in the Commonwealth has an assigned schedule. And schedules are very, very important because they can drive certain rules behind the scenes, such as guaranteed hours, day breaker rules. Also, when shift differential is working, those will also be driven based upon your schedule. So we know that schedules out there, some of them are not 100% accurate. So if you see one of the people that you entered time for, if they don't have a correct schedule, immediately send an email to payroll@mbta.com and provide their correct schedule. What's good is that they can go in. It's actually your HR group who's going to go in and make that change for the employee. But the schedule change takes effect at the beginning of a pay period. So if you today requested, I just got to find a 2017 calendar here, we're in May. So if you today requested a schedule change and they went in today and they did it, you wouldn't see that schedule change on the timesheet until May 28th. So it's always at the beginning of a pay period. And the reason for that is if you change schedules in the middle of a pay period, you're going to see some really funky stuff on the timesheet. We have seen it in the past. Sometimes you even can trigger payroll errors if the schedule isn't correct or if there's been a schedule change. So don't freak out if you send an email to payroll@mbta.com with a schedule correction and you don't see it right away. It's mostly, it's usually because it's effective at the beginning of a pay period. So what you can do in the meantime is just manually adjust the timesheet to reflect the correct hours that the employee has worked. Okay, I'm actually going to unmute your phone. I've done a lot of talking so far.
All guests have been unmuted.
Do you guys have any questions? You can ask them live or you can type them in the chat.
Oh, yeah, we have people that are on cover shifts, and there's quite a few of them, and their schedules are changing, especially throughout the summer, on a weekly basis. How should we address that?
Oh, so is it they're going through they're moving to a different schedule, or they're always going to be on a different schedule?
Well, we may have we have various other people, and they may work Monday through Friday, 6 to 2:30. And for instance, you might have a person 6 to 2:30 Monday through Friday this week. Next week, they may be on the 2 to 10 shift with Sunday and Monday off. The following week, they may be on 10 to 6 with Saturday and Sunday off. And we probably have a half dozen people that's what they're going to be doing. Also, basically vacation cover people.
Okay. Are you from the maintenance side of the house?
Well, I'm in the power department.
Okay, so you're not police is all I wanted to make sure.
So they'll just get manually put in, I would take it, or?
So that's a very good question. I'm going to have Hewen's on the line. So Hewen, if you could write that question down, and I'll get you the right answer.
Okay.
We'll see. There's a couple of different ways that you could do it. But I think if it is manual, then you'll just need to be aware of, shift, if their person's entitled to shift F, and you probably just need to enter that when they work that second or third shift.
Okay, all right. So
but I'll ask the payroll staff, and Mike Savitt's group and HR, how they want to handle it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question.
Question,
Any other questions?
Quick question.
Yeah, of course.
On that one, Jessica. Is that for a shift swap, or is that just for a change in shift for that?
So that's how you justify it?
Sounds like it was covering vacations.
Yes, they're covering vacations.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Ewan. Anyone else? Okay. If you do think of something, you can go ahead and type it in the chat. I'm going to put your phones back on mute.
All guests have been muted.
Okay. So
all guests have been muted.
Schedule is very, very important, and we will get an answer to that question for you. That was a great question. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about entering overtime. What's great about the system is that if you have an employee who just works, they're going to work overtime, they're going to work it in their home area. You don't need any combination codes or any of the other data elements that you guys have. You can just put the in punch and the out punch in the timesheet. So in the example here, we can see that this person on Monday worked 9 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. So what the system will do as soon as that is approved, it's going to calculate that overtime and whatever the employee is entitled to. So you don't have to enter any codes. The system knows that this person worked overtime and it will pay them accordingly. Now we all know this is the ideal scenario. And I know at the T that you guys have a lot of folks who work out of area, who might go somewhere else to work overtime. So if someone is working overtime outside of their normal job, the process is a little bit different. The system still is smart enough to know if there's excess hours on a day that it needs to pay an overtime rate. So you can see here that this person on Monday, the 24th, what they did here, they worked from 9 to 5:30 in their normal job. And then you go ahead and you add a row. So you scroll all the way over to the right and click that little plus button. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that little plus and minus button by now. So you click there and you add a row. And then you'll notice here that the punch in is 5:30 and 1 sec. Actually, it's even less than that, 5:30 and 1 second. That way, because you can't have two punches at the same time. So that's why we tell you to use that little second number. It's not going to affect their pay. It's such a small slice of time that it differentiates itself from that out punch. So you're just going to put that 1 second, put their out time. You can see over here the combination code has been put in, and user field 1, which is your work area. So you just put that information in, and actually you could see user field 2 is populated as well. So it was perhaps someone was out sick, and so somebody went to a different area to cover that. So that's how you would put that in there. Charles has a great question. What if the code is wrong? Who corrects, and how do they get their check if they request it? Okay, a couple of different questions. If a code is wrong, you can always go back and change the code. The only difference to that is the combination code is tied to dollars. So if payroll has already run for that particular time period, so the person has already been paid, you can't go back. You can go back and change the combination code, but it's not going to change any of the dollars behind the scenes. For your user fields, you can go back and you can change those at any time. And it's really up to, I would say, perhaps the time approver to verify that those are correct. The time approver can go in and change it at any time if they need to as they're approving time. Or, if a timekeeper notices perhaps they did some data entry, they were kind of reviewing things and realized that the data entry was incorrect, they could go in and edit that as well. I'm actually going to unmute your phone because I want to know the second part of Charles's question.
All guests have been unmuted.
So Charles, you wrote, how do they get their check if they request it? Do you mean a paper check?
Yeah, sometimes they, if they got time and a half when they should have got double, they'll say the check is owed to them for like $300 or whatever, or a 12-hour shift. Sometimes they say, well, I want that money tomorrow or whatever. And I think in the past, sometimes they've actually cut a different check. And now they want to know, all right, I want that check and where can I get it? That does happen.
Okay. Hewan, could you write that down for us? We just want to make sure we get you the correct answer.
Because now they got to actually wait, they used to be paid weekly, now it's bi-weekly. I mean, sometimes they could be waiting for, up to 3 weeks to get that money.
Yep.
If it's on to the next check.
Yep,
Cycle
good
anyways.
question. Okay. Yep, we can see. I want to make sure we get the. I mean, I know what the Commonwealth says, but I want to make sure that we get the right answer from the T side.
All right, just this few one. And this is just for the overtime pay that was not included in the normal pay period.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and Kimberly, you had a great question as well. If a code is not there, who is to be contacted? So I would suggest that you start with payroll at mbta.com. They're kind of the first point of contact, and they'll be able to triage it in order for a code to be entered. Just a note about the codes, the combination code takes usually 1 or 2 business days. It's actually entered in a different system, and then there's a process behind the scenes that loads it into HRCMS. So if you notice that a combination code isn't there, that might take a day or 2 for it to get there. As far as your user fields, those can be entered anytime and by the payroll staff, and you should be able to see them later in the day. So there's a pretty quick turnaround on that. But I would definitely reach out to payroll at mbta.com. And I have their phone number also in this presentation towards the end. I just don't have it memorized. Okay. Any other questions out there?
Jess, this is Jim Caminiti. I'm on the phone only.
Okay. Hi, Jim.
Hi. Exactly what you just described, the combination code never came in. It came in today for work last week. I sent multiple emails to payroll asking what to do. And my last email basically said, well, you know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to charge payroll, and you guys can figure it out when you figure it out. Okay. So nobody replied. Nobody replied. So basic question is, what do we do when it does not exist?
Well, so do you have it now?
I got it now.
Okay.
But it's too late.
Yeah. For last week?
Yeah.
So let me see. Oh yeah, it is. Hold on. What day are we in? Today is the 24th. So it was the week of the 14th.
Correct.
Yep. Okay. So you can actually go back and make that change. It's within the same pay period, so no physical money has been charged to that combo code or function code yet.
Really?
So if you're within the same the pay period hasn't been kind of cashed out or haven't been paid for it yet, you can go back and make that change. It's when it's already been paid out that you can't go back and change it. Accounting can do some back-end work to make sure that it's charged correctly if after it's been paid out you find that there's been an error.
So basically all these deadlines we're being told are not really deadlines.
Well, they are deadlines, right? Because the deadlines are focused on getting people paid correctly. So we do that weekly to make sure that, you make sure the hours are in there, that, it's also to cut down on the amount of data entry because you wouldn't want to wait to do 2 weeks worth of data entry.
No, I wouldn't. I agree.
So, yeah. So it's really more of a making sure that there's hours in there and that people are going to get paid when payroll comes around.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. Any others out there? Okay, if you think of one, you guys know what to do. Anders, okay, you asked the question. If someone charged a personal day and wanted a vacation day in a prior week, does it change in his personal info later? Good question. So I think what you're asking is, and I think you go by Andy, right? Yep, okay, Andy, we sat together.
We talk often.
Yes, yep. So what happens if you charge someone a personal day and they really wanted a vacation day? You can always go back and make that change for them. And then what it will, as soon as it is actually submitted, it will reflect right on their, in their balances. They'll see it right on the timesheet, underneath where it shows all of your leave balances. It should happen right away.
Okay.
Yep.
Jess, this is Jim again. I have a question in that area as well.
Sure.
Personal days on my hourly employees get, in the background, I believe they get charged a sick day. They can take a personal day, but it comes out of their sick bank. That's the way it works.
Okay.
Now, I'm noticing that the majority of my employees on their leave balance sheet do not have personal days listed.
Okay.
So if I was to try and grant a personal day, I don't think HRCMS would allow me to do that because there's zero balance on their personal day.
That's correct.
And then if I was to give them a sick day, it could put them in violation of an attendance policy.
Do you have so let me just make sure I understand. So did you say if they take a personal day, it charges their sick time?
That's how it's worked in the past. A sick day comes away from them, but it doesn't count against them as actually taking a sick day. It counts as a personal day.
Okay.
It's almost like a protected.
So
yeah, it's a protected sick day, if you will. But, I mean, basically, I think what I'm saying is I'm noticing that there's no personal days accrued for the majority of my employees.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to ask Ewan to take that down and get an answer on that. I'm not sure with how to.
I think some get charged and some don't.
Yeah, it depends on the union. I would agree with you. Some people actually get personal days and they don't come out of the sick bank.
Correct.
Okay.
Some hourly do.
Okay. So that could be a case of you use a different code for sick time, but I'm not sure. So I'm sure Ewan is writing furiously, and we'll make sure he gets an answer to that.
Okay. What was his last name again? Just
Caminiti. Caminiti.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Awesome. Good question. Okay. I'll ask one more time. Anyone else out there? Okay. I'm going to put you guys on mute.
All guests have been muted.
Okay, so we talked about entering overtime, and we had some great questions and discussion about that. If you are entering leave for a full day for an employee, you can delete the pre-populated schedule that's in there. You can do it a couple of ways. You can actually click into the in, out, mail in times and just delete it, by pressing the delete key. You can also scroll all the way over to the right and click the minus key and delete it that way, or the minus sign rather. And then it will clear out that time. So if you know the TRC or the time reporting code that the employee is using, you can just type it right in. In the example here, we see this person is using SLP or sick leave. So you could type that in. You can also click on that little magnifying glass there and get a list of codes if you weren't quite sure what they needed to select. And then anytime you're using TRC or you're putting in leave time, you want to make sure you have a quantity in there. Right? So the person scheduled to work 8 hours on Sunday, they took a sick day, they get 8 hours of sick time, provided that they have enough sick time. The system has a hard stop. It will not let you enter more time than you have. So that's it's not going to let you do that. Now we know that this is kind of the cleanest version of entering time, but also people might leave early. You have doctor's appointments. You got to go pick up the kids. So somebody might leave a little bit early. So this screenshot here is just showing you that kind of right side of the timesheet. Where you can add a new row. So those are our friends, the plus and minus symbols over here. So in this instance, we're going to add another row because we need to add another row of time to make up the schedule. Okay. Oops, I skipped ahead. Okay, so here we go. So entering leave for a partial day. So we see in this instance that this person has left. They left early. On Thursday, and so you would just adjust their time, right? Because the punches on the timesheet want to be as accurate as possible. So if somebody left at 2:30, then you want to make sure that their out punch is at 2:30. So you change their out punch, and then on that second line, you're going to enter the applicable time reporting code, the TRC. So in this case, we're using personal time, and then again, because we are using personal time, we have to enter a quantity, a number of hours that they're making up to make them whole. So you enter that, and then you click Submit, and then it will be routed to the time approver for approval. If you need to enter shift differential, and shift differential could be set up as a rule in the system. I talked to the technical team yesterday, and it is not currently working. So you guys have for the future, for some time in the future, you're going to need to enter shift differential on the timesheet. So in this example, someone is entitled to shift differential. So in similar, you're just going to add one line here to that day that they worked. The time reporting code is SAM. Kind of an easy one. I have the gentleman who sits in front of me actually is named Sam, so that's easy for me to remember. So you put SAM in the time reporting code, and then SAM is actually a dollar amount, TRC. So that's what you enter the dollar amount that they are entitled to. And for data entry purposes, if you have somebody who works a normal, maybe an 11 to 7 schedule, that's what they work Monday through Friday, and they're entitled to shift differential, you can do it one of two ways. You can enter their shift differential on every day that they worked, or you can just enter their shift differential for the week. So if they are entitled to $50 extra, you can just put one row of SAM and put the dollar amount of 50. So that's a little data entry kind of trick that'll save you a little bit of time, a little bit of clicks, a little bit of, typing if you do it that way. Okay. All right. I'm going to unmute your phone and see if there's any
All
questions out
guests
there.
have been unmuted.
Any questions on anything we've talked about so far? Okay, hearing none, I'll remute the phones.
All guests have been muted.
Okay. So the next kind of thing I wanted to walk through, since this is the timekeeper session, is how to find a time reporter group. So what is great is that if you're a timekeeper logging in using your UAID, you have access to everyone in the team. So it's good and bad. If you don't know someone's, it can be kind of hard to find your employees because you guys have a lot of employees. So the easiest way is to find the time reporter group. So as timekeepers, you have certain approvers who you enter time for. So if you know their time reporter group number, you can just type that in and it's going to give you a list of their employees. So that's really nice to be able to do that. But it's a little tricky. Sometimes it can be a little tricky to find them, so that's why I put this at the end of the presentation so you'd be able to see it. So remember, we're logged in as a timekeeper, and we've navigated to the timesheet summary. Hopefully you have this saved as a favorite. So you go here, and what you're going to do is, and you can see, it's kind of small, you can see clicking on that little magnifying glass next to Time Reporter Group. From there, you actually are going to click on the Advanced Lookup, and that's going to give you the ability to search a little bit differently. So on that second line, you're going to change the description to Contains. And actually, Charles Dutton is on the phone, and I'm using you as an example in this. So, Charles, I hope you don't mind. And you can put the person's last name in. So if you have a time approver and you know the person's last name, which I'm guessing you do, it's very easy to find their time reporter group. You type that in, you click Lookup, and then you actually can just click on their name. And it will populate their time reporter group right in the grid for you. And you can click Get Employees, and it's going to bring up a list of their employees. So, if you have if you're like me and you have stickies all over your desk, or maybe you're really organized and you have an Excel spreadsheet, you could put the time reporter group, put those numbers right somewhere where you can easily access them. My guess is you might remember them after typing them in for a while, but that's an easy way to bring them up. It does bring them up by last name, alphabetic, alphabetical order. So that's kind of the easiest way. And once you click into one, you can kind of navigate to next employee using that from there. So that's just the easiest way to find a time reporter group. I will caution you, though, that from time to time these numbers do change. So if approvers change, if somebody retires and a new supervisor comes in, that number could change. So if that happens, you just want to go in and you just want to search the same way we did to see if they have a new number. So a couple of miscellaneous tips for you. The first is a data entry tip. This will save you a couple of keystrokes. So if you're entering time for an employee, you have to change their schedule, for example. Instead of entering 9:00 a.m., you can actually just enter 9A. The system is smart enough to know that's 9 a.m. and it will convert it. It will convert it when you hit submit. So you should see that happen. And we've been trying as we go out and we meet with you guys in the field. We've been trying to tell people that because that does, it's amazing how many, those little punches on the keyboard, they do add up. So that's one of my miscellaneous tips. The other thing that I wanted to point out is there is a system rule for guaranteed hours. So that will calculate automatically. As timekeepers, you're not going to see that on the timesheet. So if you do need to enter it, maybe somebody tells you that you need to enter it, or payroll's reviewing something and notice that someone is short hours, so they reach out to you to do that data entry. You want to use the TRC of Reg B, R-E-G-B. That rolls up right into Reg, so the person won't even notice it on their timesheet. So Reg B and the number of hours.
All guests have been unmuted.
Okay, I've unmuted your phones. One last thing is, the MBTA payroll staff is here to assist you. Here's their phone number and their email address. If you do have questions or something's not working right or you need a code added, you can go ahead and reach out to them. But I will open it up for questions. So if you guys have any questions, you can speak up or you can type them in the chat. Okay, hearing none, I will give you guys back some time in your day. I want to thank you for taking time to join us. And, if you do have questions or you think of something later on, please feel free to reach out, or you can contact the Payroll Help Desk and they'll be able to get you an answer to your question. Ewan does have a number of questions that we're going to take back and get some answers to, so we will be sure to communicate with you guys with the correct procedures a little bit later in the week.
Thank you.